G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome to British Era 2, Battle Rating 3.3 Maximum Arcade. I do actually enjoy a good arcade match every now and again. Today's match, I've basically built a lineup that is almost exclusively premium planes, as I was using this match to finish unlocking the last of the new British planes that were released in patch 1.51. Now in today's match I'm starting in the Boomerang Mark II, and I'm going to be flying mainly defensive between runway A and runway B. Today's a domination match, so I need to keep these two runways secured, clear of enemy aircraft so we can cap them and control them for the entirety of this match. Now I know there's many players out there that don't actually like arcade, many realistic players. They feel that arcade is a little bit skillless. I actually don't agree, and I thought I'd take today's match as an opportunity to talk about the three game modes in War Thunder and my opinions on each one. So we'll start off with Simulation. Now simulation game mode I don't actually like in War Thunder all that much. I do play it from time to time. In fact, I have some simulation content that will be coming up on the channel soon. A rather impressive match. I did fairly average in it, but my wingman did exceptionally well. But the biggest problem that Simulation Battle has is that it isn't unique in the gaming market. War Thunder Arcade and War Thunder Realistic doesn't really have any direct competition from any other game. There is no other game that provides the kind of gameplay that is available within these two game modes, available within War Thunder. Simulation, however, has the disservice of having to go head-to-head with games like IL-2 1946, IL-2 Cliffs of Dover, IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad, the new to go into testing this month, I believe, IL-2 Battle of Moscow, which is going to be an expansion pack for Stalingrad. It also has to go against DCS World. The list goes on and on. There's actually quite a number of exceptionally high quality simulators out there that render everything that you can do within War Thunder rather obsolete. The multiplayer tends to be vastly more dynamic and interesting, and because these simulators are designed to be simulators from the get-go, the overall gameplay experience tends to be much higher in these simulators. About the only thing that War Thunder Simulation has over any of the other simulators that are on the market that you could potentially look at is extremely low barrier for entry. With many of these simulators, DCS especially, having a skill curve that looks more like a cliff face. The only other advantage I could give War Thunder Simulation is its integration with tanks, but again, this only works if you are interested in tanks as well. If you are only interested in the aircraft, the integration with tanks is more likely going to annoy you than actually be a selling point for your game. Realistic, being my preferred game mode, my opinions on this should be fairly well known, but basically what Realistic has done is they've taken the most user-friendly components of arcade, the instructor assistance, the mouse aim, the third-person camera, but they've also taken aspects from what you would traditionally see in a more simulation-orientated title, limited ammunition in the air, the need to land and return for reloads, more advanced flight modelling and damage modelling, and they've incorporated it into an environment or a map size that is scaled to fit somewhere between what you would see in an arcade game and what you would see in a full-blown simulation. Now I've managed to clear the enemy away from this runway, so I'm just going to try and quickly nick in and ninja it while I have the opportunity to do so, and get clear before those fighters that are 6 kilometres or 5.5 kilometres out have a chance to get to me. I'm hoping I've got some allies over my shoulder at the moment to give me some cover. Throttle back to 100% onto WEP, clear the runway, turn away and head back towards my own forces. Unfortunately it looks like we've lost the A cap, so I'm going to have to head over there and try and help clear that out now. Now the skill set for Realistic Battle is heavily reliant on situational and tactical awareness, understanding of how your aircraft performs and understanding how enemy aircraft perform in relation to their real world capabilities and gunnery skills. That is the key areas that if you understand well, you will generally perform pretty well within Realistic. Which leads me on to Arcade. Now Arcade is exactly what it says on the box. There is no national diversity between the planes. All the flight models are normalised, so you can pretty much fly any aircraft in the game any way that you personally want to fly them. If you want to fly a Focke-Wulf 190 as a turn fighter, you can. It won't do the job as well as a genuine turn fighter will, but the flight modelling and the way physics operate within Arcade most certainly leave this as a possibility. This means that the need to understand how your aircraft performs in relation to your enemy's aircraft and how the aircraft performs in relation to its real-life counterpart is actually not so important within Arcade. Likewise, gunnery skill isn't so important in Arcade either. Why the ballistics in Arcade and the ballistics in Realistic are almost identical, there is no real change between the two. The lead target indicator in Arcade removes a lot of your need to do self-calculations in order to aim. All you need to do is understand exactly how the lead target works, what it represents, and how to lead the lead target indicator or fall behind in order to shoot an enemy aircraft in relation to its position against yours, and you'll shoot really well in Arcade. So these are two skills that do have a lesser impact in arcade than they do in realistic, which is I think where a lot of the skillless claims come from. But what a lot of pilots I find tend to forget is there is actually a few other things that are going on in arcade that require you have more skill than you would in realistic. One is personal situational awareness. When you fly out in a battle in realistic, your team might have 16 players, the enemy team might have 16 players. When you shoot down one of these aircraft, that's it, they're gone from the match, so you only need to worry about the remaining 15. So your personal situational awareness slowly gets easier and easier on you as time goes on. As more and more of the enemy team and your own team gets eliminated, the number of aircraft you need to constantly keep track of slowly reduces over time. This isn't true in arcade. In arcade, every player has access to a minimum of 3 crew slots if they are brand new starting at the game. There's 2 additional slots that you can buy with Silver Lions. I don't think that's changed since I started. And after that, there are slots that you can buy with gold. Out to, if the player is an older player that has access to some of the older system, out to potentially 10 slots. So you might have to shoot a player down 10 times in order to clear all of their potential aircraft. Now, every single time you eliminate one of these players, they come back at their spawn point. This means, unless your team is doing exceptionally well, you are facing a constant number of enemy planes on the enemy team at all times. And every time you kill one, you need to be aware of where the enemy's spawn point is, because that's where he is going to reappear, and he is likely going to be coming back wanting a bit of revenge on you. So you need to be aware of every aircraft that is in your immediate vicinity in the engagement that you are currently involved in, as well as the aircraft that you have eliminated that are currently coming to that engagement. This means in arcade, situational awareness is actually a lot more taxing than it is in realistic battle. The fact that the aircraft can perform in a manner that is almost unnatural makes things even worse, as you can put yourself into a position where, in realistic, you would be completely safe from attack, but in arcade, a plane can simply pull vertical and use the arcade levels of energy retention to be able to get to your position incredibly rapidly. I often use this as a training tool for realistic battle. If I ever feel my situational awareness is starting to lack a little bit, I jump in and play a couple of rounds of arcade to get my head back on a swivel and get myself used to tracking multiple targets simultaneously. Now, the second place where arcade skill set is actually more complex than realistic battle is in battlefield awareness. In any map in realistic battle, there are capture points on the ground, as there are in arcade, but these capture points are generally taken only by ground forces. The players can influence the capture by eliminating the enemy ground forces or covering your own ground forces in order to make it easier or more difficult for these points to be captured, depending on what side you're on and what you're trying to do. But base capture and control can't be influenced by direct interaction of the player, excluding bombing out area bombing targets. That's it, which is exactly the same as how it works in arcade. In arcade, as you can see in this domination match, these capture points can only be influenced, in most cases, by direct interaction with the player. So you need to be not only watching what enemy aircraft are doing in relation to you for the dogfight that you are currently engaged in, but watch what planes are trying to get to which capture points in order to capture them and trying to defend those points. You'll also find yourself regularly needing to put yourself in a compromised position in order to be able to retain control of these capture points or capture them back yourself. Because player aircraft are a lot faster and a lot less predictable than AI-based ground forces, actually watching what is going on the ground is just as important as watching what is going on in the air. And if you lose that battlefield awareness in arcade, you're likely going to be responsible for losing the match for your team. This difference also puts more strain on your situational awareness, as unlike in realistic, where most of the control points on a given map tend to be fairly centralized in a relatively straight line between your runway and the enemy's runway, in a position you're likely going to be fighting in anyway. The arcade maps place these control points spread evenly across the entirety of the map, often in positions where you won't actually have direct line of sight from one capture point to another capture point due to terrain features, mountains and such, getting in your way. Now, these differences are the reason why I don't agree with any player who says that arcade is skillless. Arcade actually requires a lot of skill to be extremely good at it. However, the skill set is different to that in realistic and simulation. It's funny, 3 different game modes require 3 different skill sets. And unfortunately, this is something that I find is heavily overlooked. And I think it's mostly overlooked because arcade does have the lowest barrier to entry. It is the easiest game mode for players to get involved in, which is it's a good thing. If arcade didn't exist in War Thunder, War Thunder probably wouldn't exist. It's as simple as that, and there are skills that realistic players can practice within arcade, situational awareness being key amongst them. Anyways, that's the end of this match and victory for our team, so let's go through to the results. So not a bad little match, 10 kills, I lost 2 aircraft, so 5 to 1 KDR isn't bad. Teamwork, Fighter Hunter, Fighter Rescuer X2, Avenger, Shadow Strike X4, Multi Strike X2, Ground Forces X3, Professional X2, Windstreak X3 and Terror of the Sky, 43,662 Silver Lions, and 6,913 research points, which wasn't bad for 10.5 minutes work and was enough to finish off unlocking the Firebrand. So that's the British tree complete for patch 1.51. Not a bad little match overall, I don't think. So, anyways, that's my opinion between the 3 game modes that are available in War Thunder. Arcade and Realistic, I enjoy both. I do spend more time in Realistic, it is more my style. I do play a lot of Arcade. Arcade's my go-to when I just want a little bit of fun, a little bit of enjoyment, or to brush up on my situational and tactical awareness skills if I find that they're lacking a little bit during a couple of rounds of Realistic. Simulation, I do play it from time to time, but I find myself ever increasing, sitting down, wanting to play some simulation, having the joysticks and everything else plugged in, ready to rock and roll, and I wind up clicking the icon for IL-2 instead of War Thunder. Actually, recently it's been Rise of Flight. A lot of Rise of Flight. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.